Radio 1 station. Boston's home for classic soul and R&B. 1090 AM. WILD. Boston.
Keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. And Brother Sadiki is our guest from Boston, and we're talking about Kwanzaa, and I'm opening the phones, hot button Monday, going to let you express yourself, whatever's on your mind, whatever's in your heart. Sadiki Kambon. Let me ask you, Sadiki, for those in the Boston area, where's the event tonight? What time and location?
Well, it's actually at St. Catherine's Church at 516 Blue Hill Avenue in the Dorchester section of Grove Hall, Boston. It's at 7 p.m. And, you know, we feel like we have a model here, Reverend Sharpton, that we have about, well, I'm the volunteer director of the Black Community Information Center, and the Community Kwanzaa Committee is a component of the Information Center, and we have about 20 different organizations in the community who function as a coalition. So we have like approximately 3 co-sponsors per evening, and you know, we get that type of cooperation. And I heard a comment last week that I think I heard you made, that you read something to the effect that they were saying that they haven't heard, you know, not much is being said about Kwanzaa, and that is it moving in the opposite direction. And you know, from my perspective, having stepped down as the chair of the Kwanzaa committee after a couple of decades here in Boston, what I'm seeing is that it's Kwanzaa is becoming institutionalized in our homes, in our families, right. So that I know that we have 7 nights of activities with the various sponsors, and we have wall-to-wall people every night, Reverend Sharpton. So for me, it's growing widely on its own.
That's good to hear. Let's get some calls and some tweets. FBK writes, "Happy Kwanzaa, Reverend Al." Let's go to Rick in Detroit. Rick, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
All right, let me say happy Kwanzaa to the both of y'all. I believe that, and at least for me, Kwanzaa represents one of the more popular contemporary attempts to organize some change to behavior-based activism in the black community. And I find it interesting that I hear so many of the gospel-orientated type or evangelist type trying to, you know, denigrate Mr. Karenga. But when you look at the St. Nicholas, you'd almost have to say that he and the baby Jesus had their image and likeness stolen, if you know, got right down to it. And I thought it was particularly interesting over the weekend to hear them try to, you know, put this procedure around Mr. Karenga only. It's like nothing can be better than, you know, no idea can be better than the individual that's bringing it. And that in itself is a philosophical problem for me. Another part of that, since this is, you know, hollering out Monday where we get this off our chest, I had an experience, and me and you had talked about it on the show once before, Reverend Sharpton, and that was the amount of people who get caught up in our system who, you know, really when they look out and they need some attention, support, or advocacy from the community in order to be treated fairly, they have a real hard time, an unnecessarily hard time trying to contact the experts and the popular advocates and organizers, media representatives, and justice fighters. I have, over the last 2 years, talked to over a dozen people who had legitimate issues that should have been organized around in our defense, and they, you know, just due to their income, due to their social and economic status, and just due to the lack of connections, you know, they were unable to get their stories out till it got to a point where they just said, "Hey, I just, you know, give it up. Hope I haven't threw too much out there at one time." But
no, but I think what you say is true, which is, thank you for your call, which is why it is very much a challenge for groups like National Action Network and other groups to be able to be viable enough to pay its bills, which is why you have conventions and things of that nature to raise money, because you have to pay your staff, you have to pay your office rents and all that, and be open to those that need your help that can't give a donation. And I think that it is a hard task. A lot of people want to be critical, but try raising $4 or $5 million a year, no government money, and remaining available to everybody that needs you. That's the task. That's what we are committed to doing. But I'll be the first one to tell you it's not easy. Yep. Let's go to Lee in Richmond, Virginia. Lee, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Hello. Habari gani?
Baragani to you.
Kuji Chagalia is the response, and I thank you for taking my call. And I want to start by letting you know that I really appreciate what you do. I really do. You are definitely the voice of those who, don't know how to say and who to say what they need to say. What I'd like to pull out into the conversation is the importance of culture and the media and those naysayers who want to knock Kwanzaa. I say to you, look up in the dictionary or just go inside yourself and think about what it means to lift up your culture, because everybody on this planet can do that but black folks. And I want us to understand that if there is this tremendous attack on us to remember our culture, we need to really do some research.
I agree with you, Lee. Brother Sadiki?
Yes, sir. I'm hearing the comments.
Hold 1 minute. I hear the break. We come back. Sadiki respond. Thank you, Lee. We're going to have Sadiki responds, and then we're going to open up for whatever you want to talk about. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Sharpton, keeping it real. We'll be right back.
1090 WILDAF. WILD. Where information is power. Keeping it real. Keeping it real. Keeping it real.
Keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. Brother Sadiki Kambon with us a few more minutes. Sadiki, you were getting ready to respond to Lee and Richmond talking about Kwanzaa.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Well, let me just say this, Reverend Sharpton, that, on occasion I have folks say to me, well, Sadiki, you need to come back to the church. We're all sinners, and this is a chance for you to, get your life together. And so I say to myself, or I say to them, well, explain to me, because my understanding in terms of the Ten Commandments, I believe there's one that you're more of an expert than me, Reverend Sharpton, about not telling a lie. And right. So how do you look your children in the eye and say that a little fat white man in a red suit in the North Pole gets in a sleigh pulled by reindeer that flies through the sky and comes down the chimney with gifts in your house on the 25th of December, and it's nothing but a lie, Reverend Sharpton, and we perpetuate that lie. And the most serious aspect is that in fact that it's like the Christmas tree.
Well, but Sadiki, let me say this. Mm-hmm. I have to take issue with you. That is not a little white lie when you hear it in the church. That's a big black lie.
Well, I didn't say it was a white lie. I said it was a lie. I said it was a lie.
Let's go to Rose in Chicago. Rose.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Rev. That was a good one. I appreciate that. Good afternoon to Sadiki, too. I want to say, Sadiki, I listen to you all the time, and I enjoy your thoughts.
Thank you, ma'am.
And by the way, a happy Kwanzaa. I would also have to say, Reverend Al, on WVON this morning, it was really hot. And it really got kind of ridiculous to just insult the Kwanzaa holiday in itself. And while
really?
this is... Pardon me?
What happened? Tell us what happened.
Well, the host was saying that black folks shouldn't celebrate Kwanzaa because there was no God concept in it. And I'm not non-religious. I'm not non-spiritual. I'm a very, I would call myself, I practice ancient African spirituality. But, I think people who are constantly putting God in things and saying that it has to be there in order for us to do something. Reverend Al, we have a lot of churches on every corner, and God is in all those churches, and we're in awfully bad shape.
But I don't. First of all, let me say this, Rose, and Sadiki can jump in. The seventh principle of Nguzo Saba is faith.
Yes,
so that is God in it. But aside from that, I don't know who you talk about on VON, but do they celebrate the 4th of July? Where's God in the 4th of July? Where's God in President's Day? What do they talk about?
Exactly.
Most holidays don't have anything to do with religion.
Well,
exactly. That's what I was saying. But can I say something else?
Yeah.
I also wanted to say that you said someone wrote an article saying that the holiday is man-made. Let me also say all holidays are man-made. Somebody said, especially religious holidays, somebody said somebody whispered something or something whispered something into them, and so they wanted to bring forth something. We don't know if that person heard something. We choose to believe that. We choose to follow that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's man-made too. We don't know what whispered.
No, I agree with you. Go ahead, Brother Sadiki.
Yes, let me just say that, in terms of what the sister just stated, that my interpretation of that is that whenever you have our folk, black folk, attacking an African institution, what that is that's a fear of independent thinking. In other words, when you talk about, okay, the God factor, they're saying, now, if the God factor is there, they'd say, well, that's a challenge for Christmas. And we're trying to make it very clear that it's not. What we're talking about here is something that is a nation-building concept, because I heard you, Rep, saying, in terms of the work of the National African Network and struggling to find funds. Look, we are like 15 to 17% of the population, but we have a GNP, a gross national product, of $1 trillion in this country.
That's right.
And we're the 9th wealthiest group of people in the world. There's no excuse for us to have the unemployment, for our children to be not being educated properly, the housing, the whole gamut. And what it is that you have folks who are in fear of doing anything or establishing anything that is independent of white approval. That's the primary factor. We went through that here when we were talking about having our own city here in Boston. So Kwanzaa is that vehicle. And like I said, we should not look at it as a social event, but as we get together socially from a nation-building perspective. Because if we implemented the principles upon which Kwanzaa is based, Reverend Sharpton, you wouldn't have any trouble raising money for the National Action Network. We wouldn't have problems establishing our own businesses.
That's true.
Reverend Al, I want to add one more thing, and then I'm going to hang up. The host also said how he did not believe in Kwanzaa, but he believed in the 7 principles. What kind of foolishness is that? That's what Kwanzaa is about, the 7 principles.
Yes,
you all have a good day.
Thank you for your call. And one of the things, and I think you raised it as very interesting, Brother Sadiki, I remember when I was a kid in maybe junior high school, certainly high school, when I first heard of Kwanzaa. And in fact, one of the first times I was profiled, I did a Kwanzaa celebration. I conducted it at 16 years old, and the New York Times profiled me in doing it. And I remember that I felt it gave us a kind of code of behavior, morals, that was good, as well as a cultural identity that had no conflict with my religion. I was a boy preacher then. And I think that the success of it is that it is institutionalized. And I think you hit it right on the head. When you see even the government and even those in the U.S. postage stamp law have to recognize something that came from our community, Dr. Karenga and others, and it gets this kind of universal kind of recognition, that's a good thing. It shows success. I mean, some of us don't recognize institutionalizing things and letting it outlive just a season is in of itself a successful thing. I hope National Action Network lived way beyond me. And I think we've got to stop this thing where we do something that's hot, and when it becomes universally accepted, we act like it doesn't matter anymore. What it really does is shows the success and profundity of those that conceptualize it.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I talk about nation building, because, the younger folks we pass the torch to in terms of the Kwanzaa aspect, I said, look, it's grown, Kwanzaa has grown leaps and bounds, but you have to treat it like it's in its infancy. We have wall-to-wall people at these celebrations, but the Community Kwanzaa Committee here in Boston, our role is to educate. See, we know that there's a hundreds and thousands more folks who, in fact, are celebrating at home. I'll give you an example. A sister came a few years ago, and I said, well, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you out for a while. And she said, well, brother, that's because I came to the community Kwanzaa celebration to learn how to do it. She says, now I invite my neighbors to my house, and that's the goal. And if you come to the celebration, Reverend Sharpton, no alcohol, no pork products. You won't find any brothers in there with their pants down low. You won't find sisters in there dressed inappropriately, because folks understand that this is a family gathering and this is the appropriate way that you, in fact, are expected to function.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Sadiki. We'll be talking to you later in the week. I'm going to take a break. Now it's me and you. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Hot Button Monday. Whatever is on your mind, whatever's in your heart, I'm coming to you next. David, Reverend Williams, Ron, Adelia, Pauletta. Stay right there. I'm coming to you. Where's my caller that wanted to talk about paganism? Come on, don't back up now. I'm coming to you. Keeping it real. Sharpton, right after this.
Keeping it real. 1090 WILDAF. WILD. Where information is power. The Osiris Group proudly presents Families Do Matter with your hosts Larry and Deborah Hickenbottom. Sundays from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern on NewsTalk 1090 AM WILD Boston.